Chapter 1. The Hunter's Gamble. I was alone, deep in the wild, tracking my prey with every ounce of skill I had. The sun was merciless, and sweat trickled down my brow, but I didn't dare stop. I'd been shadowing this creature for hours, moving through the grass so silently that even the wind seemed unaware of my presence. The animal, a sleek beast with fur that gleamed in the sunlight, grazed peacefully, unaware that I was closing in. Failure wasn't an option, not with my tribe depending on me. Returning empty-handed would mean going hungry tonight, and I couldn't afford that. Not today. The beast moved out onto the open plain, and I knew I had to be careful. Too close, and it would bolt. Too far, and I'd miss my shot. I unslung my bow and knocked one of the few arrows I had left. I drew the bowstring back, feeling the tension in my muscles, and took a deep breath. Exhaling slowly, I let the arrow fly. It sliced through the air with a faint whistle, striking the creature squarely in its side. Blood blossomed from the wound as the beast collapsed, and a rush of adrenaline coursed through me. I approached cautiously, ready to deliver the final blow, but it wasn't necessary. The animal was already fading. I grabbed it by the leg and began the long haul back, but then something caught my eye. A structure on the horizon, barely visible through the heat haze. My curiosity piqued. I turned away from my path and headed toward it, dragging my catch behind me. Chapter 2. The Monument's Call. As I drew closer, the monument became clearer, and with each step, the grass underfoot seemed to flatten, as though bowing to some unseen force. The structure was massive, far larger than I had imagined from a distance. The stones stood tall, arranged in a perfect circle, each one as large as a small tree. The sight of it filled me with awe, but also with a creeping sense of dread. This place was old, far older than anything I'd ever seen before. I left my kill behind and moved closer to the stones, my footsteps soft on the earth. The stones seemed to stare down at me as if judging whether I was worthy to be here. But something stronger than fear pulled me forward. It wasn't just curiosity, it was a need, a compulsion to understand what this place was and why it existed. The closer I got, the more I felt it, an ancient power radiating from the stones, a force that made my hair stand on end. Chapter 3. Into the Forbidden Circle. I stepped into the circle, and everything changed. The air grew thick, almost suffocating, and the light of the sun seemed to dim as if being swallowed by the shadows of the towering stones. Inside, the world felt different, as if I had crossed a threshold into a place that was not meant for men. The grass that had bent to the ground outside the circle was now gone, replaced by bare earth that felt oddly warm beneath my feet. The stones themselves seemed to pulse with a strange energy, their surfaces glowing faintly in the dim light. I moved toward one of them, unable to resist the pull. My hand trembled as I reached out, my fingers brushing against the smooth, warm surface. For a moment, nothing happened. Then pain, sharp, unbearable pain, shot through my body, as if the stone itself had reached inside me and twisted my bones. I yanked my hand away and stumbled backward, the pain refusing to leave my body. I fell to the ground, writhing as waves of agony washed over me. My vision blurred, and I felt my strength fading. The last thing I saw before darkness took me was the looming stones, standing silent and unmoved by my suffering. Chapter 4. The Ancient Wraith. The place I had trespassed into was not just a monument. It was a meeting place, a sacred ground where beings far beyond human comprehension once gathered. These beings, these ancient entities, had worked for countless ages to guide this world, to shape its creatures, and help them rise to greatness. But I, in my ignorance, had defiled their sacred space. With a single touch, I had disrupted something that had stood for millennia, something that held the balance of the world in its hands. The beings could no longer return to this place, their work here forever undone by my reckless act. All their efforts, all their plans, were lost because of me. Chapter 5. The Forsaken World. As I lay there, my life slipping away, the ancient beings made their decision. They would not save us. We were but one of many worlds, one of many attempts at creation, and now we have failed. They would move on, leaving this world to fend for itself, no longer guided by their wisdom. The structure that had once been a beacon of their presence would now be just a ruin, a forgotten relic of a time when gods walked the earth. Stonehenge, the meeting place of the gods, now stood empty and abandoned. The stones, once full of life and power, were now cold and lifeless. The beings who had placed them there were gone, and they would not return. We, the people of this world, were left alone, forgotten by the very beings who had once cared for us. And so, Stonehenge remains a mystery to those who come after, a silent witness to the moment when the gods turned their backs on us, leaving us to our fate.